Welcome to 5 Minutes in the Word, a daily devotional in the Word of God. Today on 5 Minutes in the Word, I want us to turn to Matthew chapter 15, and I want us to look today at the teaching here of Jesus. Matthew chapter 15, starting there in verse 1, Then the scribes and Pharisees who were from Jerusalem came to Jesus, saying, Why do your disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they do not wash their hands when they eat bread. Now, here are the scribes and Pharisees, and you see them numerous times in the New Testament, just bringing complaints or accusations against Jesus or against his disciples. And so this time it's against the disciples. Why are they eating with unwashed hands? And according to their traditions, the tradition of the elders, they were supposed to wash their hands, but they weren't washing their hands. And this is what they're bringing to Jesus about. So Jesus is going to answer them. This is how he answers in verse 3. He answered and said to them, Why do you also transgress the commandment of God because of your tradition? For God commanded, saying, Honor your father and your mother, and he who curses father and mother, let him be put to death. But you say, Whoever says to his father or mother, Whatever profit you might have received from me is a gift to God, then he need not honor his father or mother. Thus, you have made the commandment of God of no effect by your tradition. Hypocrites! Well did Isaiah prophesy about you, saying, These people draw near to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me, and in vain they worship me, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men. When he had called the multitude to himself, he said to them, Hear and understand. Not what goes into the mouth defiles a man, but what comes out of the mouth, this defiles a man. And so here you're having the scribes and Pharisees, and we already said that what accusation they brought. They brought the accusation that the disciples of Jesus, that they were not eating properly, that they were eating with unwashed hands. And here the complaint was they were transgressing against the tradition of the elders. But then Jesus is going to turn to them and he's going to say, wait a second. You transgress the commandments of God by making your traditions, and by formulating traditions that are contrary to the Word of God. He uses specifically here in reference to honoring your father and mother. And so you're seeing here that what they have done is they have decided that man's wisdom and man's customs and man's way of thinking of things is superior to the commandments of God. And that's the way they're living. And this was something that you saw throughout the early parts of the New Testament about the Pharisees and the scribes. Numerous times he calls them hypocrites over and over again, because the way they lived their life was not what they proclaimed it to be. And also when they claimed to be righteous, and really they were being worldly. And so here you're seeing that Jesus is going to call them on this because their traditions have become superior in their mind than the commandments of God. And I think that's a trap that we can fall into today too. If we are doing anything that is based on tradition and we're proclaiming it as doctrine, then we have a problem. If there's something that we're doing in our homes or in the congregation we attend or anything like that is truly just a tradition and that is not doctrine and not from the teaching of God, then we have a problem. Things that come up in times past in various places were the type of pews people used, or types of songbooks that people used, or various other things that really just are helps, they're aids to our worship and to our assembly together and stuff. And these are the kind of things that sometimes become so divisive when people hold on to these things or these items or these traditions instead of simply worshiping God the way he called us to worship and the way he called us to live. This warning here about holding on to the traditions of men is really brought very clear in Jesus' kind of final thoughts here in verse 10 through 11. When he called the multitude to him, he said, Hear and understand. Now this is something that should draw our attention, should catch our mind so we can understand what's going on here. Not what goes into the mouth defiles a man, but what comes out of the mouth, this defiles a man. It's not going to defile you for necessarily eating with unwashed hands. You might get sick off something depending on what you've been touching or where you've been, but that's not going to truly defile you. But what's going to defile you is what's coming out of your heart. And what's coming out of your heart is exactly what you put into it. And so if you've allowed these evil things to come into you, this is going to be pouring back out of you as well. And that is what is going to defile a man, not eating with unwashed hands. We need to make sure that our hearts are right with God, that we're not living based on tradition, but we're living based on the faith. And that is the way that we conduct ourselves. That's the way we live our lives. And that is the way that we proclaim that we are true disciples of Christ and we're living and following for him. And so today, let's be cautious about the traditions of men. Let's do not preach them as doctrine, as the gospel, and let us make sure that we are truly focusing on what truly defiles and what truly does not defile, and let's making sure that we're living our life according to the will of God.